All right, let's dive in. Today, we're cracking open the digital toolbox that scientists are using to make sense of our world. We're going to talk about the absolute bedrock of programming, data, structures, and algorithms. Let's see how these invisible tools are unlocking the very secrets of our own biology. So, picture this. You're trying to find one specific book in a library the size of a planet. That's basically the challenge scientists are up against right now. The amount of biological data out there, we're talking everything from our DNA to complex proteins, is just exploding. It's growing so fast, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And just handling this tidal wave of information, that's one of the biggest jobs in all of modern science. So how do they do it? How do researchers dig through this massive digital haystack to find that one tiny needle that could be a cure for a disease or a massive breakthrough in understanding life itself? It's a huge problem, right? But luckily, it has a surprisingly elegant solution.
And that's where this idea of a digital toolbox comes in. Now, this isn't a physical box with wrenches and hammers, of course. It's a collection of brilliant methods developed by computer scientists for organizing and processing information. It allows us to finally tame that data deluge and turn all that chaos into clarity.
Inside this toolbox, you've basically got two core tools that have to work together. First up, you have data structures. Just think of these as the containers. They're the specially designed boxes, the shelves, the filing cabinets that hold all of our data. And then you have algorithms. These are the instructions, the step-by-step recipes that tell the computer exactly what to do with the data in those containers. You absolutely need both to get anything meaningful done.
So let's start with the containers. Because look, before you can do anything cool with data, you have to store it in a way that actually makes sense. I mean, if you just throw all your tools into a giant pile, good luck finding the one you need, right? So what is a data structure really? Well, the formal definition is that it's the programmatic way of storing data so it can be used efficiently. And that word efficiently, that is everything. The whole point isn't just to store the data, it's to store in such a way that we can find things, add things, or change things at lightning speed. And that's absolutely crucial when you're searching through millions of gene sequences. Now, these structures all start with the basics, the real building blocks of data. You've got your primary types, which are just things like numbers, decimals, and letters. But the real magic happens when you start combining these simple things into more complex, derived structures. These are the arrangements that give our data shape and meaning. Let's take a look at the most fundamental one. Meet the array. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like an egg carton. It's a container that holds a fixed number of items. And this is important. All those items have to be the same type. All eggs, no oranges. Each item, which we call an element, has its own specific slot. And we call that slot its index, so you always know exactly where to find it. It's kind of like how each base pair in a strand of DNA has a very specific address. Okay, now, this might look like scary computer code, but I promise it's super simple. Let's break it down. Int, that just tells us this container is going to hold integers, whole numbers. Array, that's just the name we decided to give our little egg carton. And 10? Simple. It means it has exactly 10 slots. See? That's it. You just read a line of code.
Okay, so we've got our data all neatly organized in its container. Now what? Well, all that organization doesn't do you any good if you don't have a set of instructions to tell you what to do with it. So let's move on to the second tool in our box. And that brings us to the algorithm. The absolute best way to think about an algorithm is as a recipe. It's a clear, step-by-step procedure for getting something done. It doesn't matter if you're baking a cake or searching for a specific gene in a DNA sequence. The algorithm is that list of instructions you follow to get the exact same correct result every single time. But, not all recipes are created equal. A good algorithm has to be crystal clear. There's no room for guessing. It also has to eventually end. You can't have an infinite cake recipe, right? It has to be feasible too. And this is key. The logic of the algorithm, the core idea, has to work no matter what programming language you write it in. So we have our containers and we have our recipes. Now let's put them to work on two of the most common, most important tasks in all of computing: finding stuff and putting it in order. First up is what's called a linear search. This is the most basic way to find something. It's like looking for your car keys by checking your left pocket, then your right pocket, then your coat pocket, one by one. You just start at the beginning and check every single item until you find the one you're looking for.
It's simple, for sure, but as you can imagine, it can be very, very slow if you have a million pockets to check.
Now, for a much, much smarter approach, the binary search. But there's a catch, and it is a huge one. For this to work, your data must be sorted first. This algorithm is like looking up a word in a dictionary. You don't start at the letter A and flip every single page, do you? No. You jump right to the middle, see if your word comes before or after, and in that one move, you've eliminated half the book. It's all about dividing the problem to conquer it faster.
And I mean, just look at the difference this makes. It's night and day. On the left, you see the linear search just plodding along, checking every box one by one. That took 5 steps. But on the right, the binary search is like a ninja. It jumps to the middle, sees it needs to go higher, and boom, it finds the target in just 3 steps. In a massive data set, this isn't about saving a few steps. It's the difference between a scientist waiting seconds versus waiting hours or even days.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. That incredible speed you get from a binary search is only possible if the data is already in order. So how do we get it in order in the first place? You guessed it, we use another type of algorithm. This is one way to do it, called a bubble sort. It's a pretty simple way to sort a list. It just repeatedly steps through the list, compares 2 items that are next to each other, and swaps them if they're in the wrong order. You can see how the largest numbers kind of bubble up to the end of the list with each pass. Now, it's not the fastest sorting algorithm out there, not by a long shot. But it's a perfect way to see how a very simple set of rules can create perfect order out of complete chaos. Okay, so we've been talking about containers and recipes, searching and sorting, but why does any of this actually matter? Let's connect all these digital tools back to those real-world problems we started with. As our source material puts it so well, these tools are being used right now to deal with various major biological problems. This isn't just some theoretical exercise for a computer science class. This is happening in labs all over the world as we speak. This is where it all comes together. That efficiency we were talking about, that ability to store and search through gigantic data sets with incredible speed, is what powers these amazing scientific advances. We're talking about sequencing the entire human genome, predicting the crazy, complex ways that proteins fold, and even designing brand new life-saving drugs. All of these breakthroughs are built on the back of the fundamental tools we've just explored. So when you really boil it all down, it comes back to these simple, elegant building blocks: a smart way to organize your information and a clear set of instructions to process it. These tools are already reshaping medicine and our very understanding of life itself. The only question left is, what are we going to build with them next?